Looks like we're here. Welcome, welcome to this conversation. It's going to be a transformational one. And the reason I say it that way is because there's some things that are probably going to be mentioned that are going to bring some things up within yourself that want to be transcended. And what I mean by that is we spend so much of our lives protecting this inner narrative that we have created, right? But the thing that's amazing about this, like really, really, really important, is to understand why we created it in the first place. Okay. So if you're just checking in, type in below whether you're watching this live or a replay and where you're checking in from, because I love to hear where everybody's checking into this conversation, because I like to hold space globally for everybody, right? So, what I want you to think about this time is tell me what's wrong. And I would love to hear your input on how you interpret that question, because how you interpret it is data that can support you in discovering some of the things within yourself that hold you back, right? And this conversation, I'm going to be sharing some stuff that yeah, is really going to take how you hold space for yourself, is going to open up doors and possibilities that you didn't know before. And the reason I'm doing all this is just because I've been really paying a close attention to a lot of the conversations and comments that I've been receiving over the last couple of weeks, and really felt that it was time to get this out there because last night I was having a conversation with somebody, and it was funny because we've all heard the thing, life happens to us or life happens for us. And that's all, positive, empowering BS. And what I mean by BS is belief systems, right? Because positive thinking doesn't work. Positive thinking will only get you so far, right? And so think about this. What if I had my engine light come on in my car, and the reason it came on was because spark plug wire was off, or I had a rod bearing, or something within the inner workings of the drivetrain was off, and I chose to ignore it. I can do all the positive thinking I want to do in the world, but if I do not address what brought that light on, I am setting myself up to have a breakdown down the road, right? And this is one of the things when the reason we have breakdowns in any relationship or any conversation is because there's lack of clarity. Now, understand understand, every conversation we have with somebody, there is literally 8 conversations going on. Now you might, Jeff, are you out of your mind? Well, yeah, I am. I'll own that for sure. But think about, you are thinking about what to say. Okay. So that's one conversation. Then you say what you're going to say. That's 2 conversations. They hear what you say. That's 3 conversations. And then they interpret what you say. That's 4 conversations. And then they think about what they're going to respond. That's 5. They respond. That's 6. You hear. That's 7. And then you interpret. That's 8. Okay. So the reason this is important is for us to understand that it's in the confusion of a communication that our wounds will literally fill in that confusion. And this is what creates breakdowns within our relationships, right? And so, Christina, thank you for putting your name on there. Yeah, I see Facebook user. So, but understanding that when somebody reacts different to, when somebody responds differently than what we expect, then that's a great feedback. That's great feedback to tell you that they are not understanding it or receiving it the way you intended. Okay. Now, of course, they don't know what your intention is. Only you do. Right. So, and sometimes, like most of the time, we just show up in a conversation and we don't even get intentional about what that conversation is going to be, or what do we want to create, or what do I want to experience, or what do I want this other person to experience. Right. So we just automatically go into stuff, and then having the reaction that we have is all automatic stuff, right? But see, this is what's wrong. This is what's wrong, right? And again, I'd love to hear some of you, how you took that. Tell me what's wrong, because how we hold ourselves and our wounds or past regrets or past trauma or past humiliations, how we hold those experiences are really going to determine how we show up in life. Now, what do I mean by that? Because we live in a society that is really lacking in being able to hold space for people that are being completely vulnerable. Right now, it started out when it started out, and how many of us have had experiences in school where we raised our hand or the teacher called on us or something like that, and we got humiliated by the answer that we gave. Right now, understand that most teachers don't understand what is actually going on, and how, like, everybody I've talked to that has had fear of public speaking, and it's just, I find it ironic, how people have, like, what they bring up when we're having conversations, and understanding that they're bringing up the stuff that they're bringing up because they want to transcend something and they're not even aware of what's really going on. So the number one fear of public speaking, right? Like, that's one of the biggest fears out there. And to the point of, there's people out there that would rather be burned alive than to do public speaking. But see, friends, this is what they're afraid of, right? They're not afraid of the public speaking. What they're afraid of is a past experience they had, right? And that is the humiliation they experienced when they raised a hand, or somebody told them something about their looks, or see, because they project onto the audience how they hold themselves. Right now, this is super, super important to understand. And if we're not going to look at how we hold ourselves, how we characterize ourselves, what we hang on to, how we talk to ourselves, how we see ourselves when we stand in front of the mirror completely nude, like, if we don't get in touch with that conversation, then we're not going to recognize how we get triggered by how other people show up, right? And how we hold our trauma, right? And how we hold our victimized, the person that victimized us. Like, all of these things massively impact how we show up in this world, right? And you can find out from people, like, the resistance becomes the anchor, right? And this becomes the spot. It'd be just like having a thorn in your side, and somebody goes to put their finger on that thorn, not knowing that that thorn is there. And it's like you adjust and, like, oh, don't touch that spot, don't touch that spot, right? But we have overcompensated everything to avoid that thorn being touched, right? So that's where we have the opportunity to really look at, what am I creating as a result of my wounds? And understanding that we think protecting ourselves is going to make it safe for these wounds. Now, this opens up a whole other conversation, like, not just a conversation, but like weeks of dialogue, right? Is that, how do you hold your humiliation? How do you hold it? Meaning, how do you narrate it? Is there parts of you that have happened, like regrets? How do you hold space for your regrets? Right? And see, this is really, really important, because all of these things that we characterize that has happened in our past is literally determining how we're showing up and what we are creating in our present moment. Right. And I was having a conversation with somebody about this last night. It's funny. She got on there and she's like, just going to let you know that I started drinking. I've been drinking, and I'm probably not going to be here all consciously. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And we get into this conversation. She's like, holy crap, we got to back up, because, like, I've been drinking and I'm not even able to understand what it is that you're talking about. But see, friends, this is what I'm really wanting to get to. And it's not about obviously, I use the phrase, tell me what's wrong, to get people's attention, because there are certain words that trigger people, right? And when somebody says, what is wrong with you? Like, how many of you have heard that? Like, I heard that, I can't tell you how many times. And rather than being able to look at that and go, what is going on that's affecting my ability to show up authentically, right? Like, what if we reframed that question and asked it that way? But see, when I used to hear, what is wrong with you, I took that as an identity statement. Like, there is something wrong with me, rather than looking at the behavior that I have is not effective for what I want to create. And we haven't had, like, I didn't have the opportunity to be raised in an environment where we process this stuff, right? And so, again, going back to, what did you hear when you, or what did came up for you when you seen the title, Tell Me What's Wrong? Because I don't choose to look at things as either right or wrong. I choose to look at things as either effective or ineffective, right? And that starts opening up a lot of different possibilities, because, again, how we characterize our experience is going to determine how we hold space for that experience, right? And I've been going through a lot. I'm just going to be really real with you guys. That these last couple years have been like transformational on a level that I would have never signed up for, right? And understanding that when we set an intention out there and we get clear on what it is that we want to create and being willing to let go of the outcome, we also have to put into consideration that we are going to be put through training to make sure that that happens, right? Because whatever it is that you want to create in your life, the how that's going to happen is the person that you are being. Like, how are you creating what it is that you really want to create, right? And see, life doesn't happen for us, life doesn't happen to us, life happens through us. And that's what's really important, because if we have frequency, let's just say everything's frequency, vibration, and energy, and we have a frequency and we are wanting to tap into, let's just use radio waves for the analogy. We know that there's going to be a song on a particular radio station. We understand that we have to turn the dial in order to connect to that frequency. And once we connect to that frequency, we're able to hear the song that we desire. Okay. It's the same thing with whatever it is that we want to create in our lives. And if we're just off just a little bit, we're going to hear static. We're going to hear other songs coming in. We're going to hear noise, all this stuff that's impacting our ability to get a clear message. Right. And so it's the same thing with how we show up in our lives. Like, we could be at 87, we'll go even further. You could be at 97% of being the person that you need to be, but the last 3% that needs to be transcended in order for you to be where you want to be, in order to attract what you want to attract, is going to be like in a video game, you facing the boss that prepares you to be able to move through the next level efficiently and effectively, right? So tell me what's wrong. So tell me what's wrong. Think about what is wrong with your journey of life. What is wrong with it? What are the things that have happened that you wish hadn't happened, right? And what if, don't believe what I'm saying. I encourage you to just sit with it and ponder it. What if there's things happening? I just saw this incredible video by TD Jakes. It was just incredible. What if your higher self is not interested in your comfort? Your higher self is interested in you stepping into the fullest version of who you are, and understanding that your higher self understands some things about yourself that your lower self is not aware of. And so it's going to put you into situations through this journey called life that's going to give you the ability to transcend incredible pain in order for you to inspire other people and be a demonstration and a model of what it means to move through trauma, humiliation, whatever it is, and then being able to be on the inner side and hold space for something for somebody. That's like I said, real healing, authentic, deep, 100% healing means you're able to claim the power that the original wound denied you, right? And this shows up in entrepreneurship on a level that's, because in entrepreneurship, you jump off the cliff and you build it as you're falling down, and you're building the airplane as you're going down. And a lot of stuff happens out of reaction. But in that reaction, we are also projecting things within ourselves that we've spent our lives pushing away and not wanting to deal with, right? And that's just like the pressure cooker gets on of being an entrepreneur. I mean, we've all heard the imposter syndrome. We all have heard self-sabotage. We've heard self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And these are all real. They are all very, very real. And if we're not willing to look at where did that program get created, then we're going to keep doing what we've always done, right? And this is the stuff that gives us the opportunity. I just want to pause for a moment before I say what I'm about to say, because this is mission critical that everybody gets this. This is mission critical, okay? You get to be the person for you that you've always wanted somebody else to be. You get to be the person for yourself that you've always wanted someone else to be. See, because us wanting somebody outside of ourselves to heal parts of ourselves that they're not even in touch with, right, is an impossibility. We are the only ones that lived out the experience. We are the only ones that created the meaning of these experiences. We are the only one that keeps remembering whatever it is that we remember about these experiences. We are the only ones that created meanings and narratives about regret, right? So I love it. Tim Grover said something that was just powerful. He says, if you think discipline, the discipline of winning is hard, is challenging, I would add, if you think the discipline of mastery is challenging, then you haven't got the bill of regret, right? Regret is heavy, right? And there's been so many things out there, and I've said it so many times as well, that our greatest regret isn't what we did. Our greatest regret is what we didn't do. And how many things do we hold ourselves back because of past regrets? Because of how we hold experiences that have happened in the past, because of how things didn't go the way that we wanted them to go, right? All of these things impact our ability for us to move forward. And the more you can understand how you operate as a human, like we all, okay, we all have harmed other people deeply. And the more we get real about that, the more we start letting other people off the hook, right? Because our inner program is what determines the behavior, right? People don't sign up one day and say, I'm going to be an alcoholic. People don't one day wake up and say, I'm going to cheat on my partner. People don't wake up one day and just say that, right? People don't wake up and say, I'm going to walk into school with a machine gun and mow down a bunch of people, right? It doesn't just happen like that, right? It is conditioning. It is lots of different things that take place, and the behavior is just the output of what's going on in the internal world, right? So and I'm not saying that to minimize, to endorse anything, right? That's not what I'm saying at all, of understanding that when we get in touch with how we've shown up in other areas as a result of our wounds, then we can start understanding and extending that to other people, right? Like we all have wounds that has separated us from our true self and who we truly are, right? And that's where we get to have the opportunity for mastery, is us reclaiming the parts that the humiliation, the violation, the betrayal, whatever that is, has separated us. Because if we want something to be away from us, then that is impacting our ability to be whole, right? But the reason we want to be away from it is how we hold it, right? And not an understanding. Like I asked somebody a question, and I said, how long does Mike Tyson train before he gets into a fight, like back in his prime day, right? And usually like boxers will train, I don't know, 5-6 months before a main event. And you think about it, a main event is 12 rounds if they go the whole 12 rounds, right? And they're 3-minute rounds. So that's 36 minutes, right? That he's actually in that arena, boxing arena, fighting, right? Of course, Mike Tyson, it only lasted seconds in some of the fights, but he's trained his whole life. He's trained his whole life to be able to show up in that ring and do what he was able to do back in his day, right? And the same thing with us in our lives. We are constantly being trained for us to show up in the version that we are showing up. And so if we want to create and expand and make bigger and greater and more rich life, then we have to look at, who do I get to be in order for me to create a different result, right? And it starts out by looking at, what are the things within me that are really holding me back, and getting real about that, right? And this is one of the things that I'm so grateful. I know, and there's times, and depending on where I'm at, what state I'm in when I share this, that for me to be grateful for that car accident, right? Obviously, I didn't like what it did to my sister. And my sister and I had an epic conversation back in July 4th this year, because I've just been transcending some other things that happened around that car accident. And because that accident put me in a crisis mode. Crisis can mean danger or opportunity, right? It put me in a spot, in a place in my life where I had to start figuring out how I was creating the life that I was creating. Right. And I've been on a search ever since then of letting go of the things that made me, because why did I drink and do drugs and live the way I lived back then? Because I was suffering so much inside that I had to live the life that I was living to medicate, to deal with the pain that I was feeling. I didn't want to feel that pain. I wanted my life to end, like literally. And out of that, I almost succeeded. Like that was my greatest failure. Right. And so if we are suffering inside, we are going to want to look outside for something to make us feel better, right? And like you look at high achievers, you look at Travis Pastrana. Go look at Travis Pastrana's story and look at how he was raised as a kid, and now it makes all the sense why he's almost broke 100 bones in his body, right? Is because he's searching for finding significance. He's done a great job on finding significance, but what is it that motivated it, right? And really understanding what is it that you want to take and make happen, right? And the parts of you that you want to protect that you feel is wrong, that's going to impact your ability and how you show up. And this is why I have created the ROI Accelerator Challenge. There's the ticker, the little ticker on the bottom there, the ROI Accelerator Challenge. I'm going to be doing this the weekend after Labor Day, and I am going to show you how to remember, reattach yourself to your superhuman ability. Before you were conditioned to believe all the things that you have been to believe, all the pain you experienced, all that, I'm going to show you who you were before that, right? And stepping into your superhuman ability to be able to create and step into unlimited possibilities, right? Then the O is all about organizing the different domains of your life so that you operate efficiently and effectively because you're laser focused and you know where to put your life force. Friends, understand your attention is your life force, right? Wherever you're putting your attention, if you're focusing on things that happened in the past, if you're worried about things that are happening in the future, excuse me, and I'm here to tell you, it's mastery. Like I work at this stuff every single day. Some days I do it better than others. Okay. And then the I is to influence. So if you're doing network marketing, if you're doing direct sales, if you're doing any coaching, right? Like 90% of coaches make less than 20 grand a year out there. And because, I mean, there's some major similarities with the starving artist syndrome and where coaches are at and where people in the spiritual realm are, right? No judgment. It's just an observation, is because of their narratives that they have around impacting other people. Me as an influencer, it's my responsibility to do every single thing I can to get people to take me to bed with them. And what I mean by that is to get them to take my books, get to my products, take my videos, whatever it is, and so that they can take it to bed with them and so they can study and have the transformation that they get to have and be able to create the life that they really want to create. Right. So I am 100%. And see, if we don't get congruent behind that, our wounds impact our ability to show up authentically and with integrity, because a miracle is correcting truth. Our truth was we weren't to have these violations, these traumas, all these things. And there's some beliefs that I have around that as well that I won't talk about on here, but it's understanding that all of these are the training that we get to deal with to move through what we have to move through so that we can hold space and have compassion for other people. Because when you have something, a major trauma happen in your life, and I get it, everybody's got their own journey, right? Like I've had my own, everybody has their own journey. And I don't really like talking about my line a lot because I've had it happen so many times where somebody goes, I haven't had that happen to me. Okay, cool. But you had your experience. You've been humiliated in your own way. These are the opportunities for us to learn. Here's the skill. Here is the skill that you want to master. Learning to love into the pain. You learning to love into the pain is where you're absolutely going to feel your ability to trust who you are, and then you're going to be able to take more risk as a result of that, because otherwise you are going to be playing from defense because you don't want to be wounded anymore, right? And guess what? You're going to create more opportunities that are going to teach you how to transcend that, because ultimately when we boil it down, we have love or fear, right? And they are not opposites, right? Like hate is not the opposite of love. It's the absence of love. Just like darkness and light are not opposites. Darkness is the absence of light, right? So the more we can step into us understanding what it is that we really want to create. What do you want your legacy to be? Did I hold back because I was afraid of being hurt because of past memories? Or did I step in and do everything I can to find out who I truly am and the abilities that I have, and let go of all the things? Because if we don't deal with our pain, we're going to bleed it onto others. Period. And I got a PhD in that, self-proclaimed PhD. I had somebody ask me that. What is a self-proclaimed PhD? It means I claim myself as a PhD because I've spent lots and lots of time screwing crap up, right? And I have bled on a lot of people because of my own pain, right? And that's where we have the opportunity to really look at, how have we hurt people? How have we how have we done things that have impacted people's lives much differently than what we'd hoped, but yet that's how we showed up because of our wounds, right? And out of that is understanding that that's how we've been impacted by someone else's wounds as well, right? And this is where it shows up so big time in entrepreneurship, right? Because there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on entrepreneurs, and they like to take on. I'm part of that journey too. They love to talk about how strong they are and what they're able to overcome and stuff like that, but not understanding that the more weight they carry, the more weight they carry, the more energy they're burning up. And the more energy they burn up, the more susceptible they are to being vulnerable to lower vibrating stuff, right? And that's what's really important. Like, think about, I've said this a bunch of times, but how much straw does it take for a camel to break its back, right? The straw that broke the camel's back, like one blade of straw broke its back, but how much was it carrying before that happened? And most entrepreneurs operate about 4 or 5 straws shy of that one straw. But see, that's what's impacting their ability to get up into the level to be able to vibrate in the level that is in sync and in harmony with what it is that they really want to create. Right. And then they suffer, and then their relationships go south, their health goes south, all these different areas start breaking down because they're using up energy, and they've made this narrative about, I have to accomplish this something for me to be somebody. And it ends up, creating all kinds of stuff. So what I want to do is, if you haven't signed up for the ROI Accelerator Challenge, I would highly encourage you to do it. It's $1 to join the general, and then $47 for the VIP. The VIP, I've put together a series of Law of Success. It's my teaching the Law of Success. It's powerful, powerful training on that. I mean, I've listened to Think and Grow Rich probably 300 times. So there's a lot of great things in there, a lot of great takeaways. So appreciate you being here, my friend. As always, comment below your takeaways, because whatever takeaway you have, this is what's interesting about how, when you show up for a training, is that, again, our humiliation stops us. Our past humiliation stops us from stepping into this. And when I was at a training, man, I don't know, it was probably 14, 13 years ago, we were doing this, these questionnaires on our money blueprint, and me going through it. And I went, wow, this is okay. This is what came up for me. And some of it was me doing coaching with other people and that. And I recognized that I had made one decision around money, that money was more important to me. And so the speaker got up, and there were probably, I don't know, 600-700 people in this event. And he asked anybody want to give feedback. And I stood up and I shared that I watched my dad work 3 jobs. I watched any time that I asked for money, all these different things. And then I made the decision as a child that money was more important to me. And it was the beginning of the breakthrough. I later went on and found another one that was much deeper than that. But because I shared that, I had probably at least a dozen people come up to me at that event. Some of them were in tears, and so grateful that I shared that feedback, because as soon as I shared it, it landed for them, right? And so the reason I say that is because there are people that want to ask the question that you want to ask, but they just want somebody else to be able to do it, because we're all on a journey. We are all on a journey, and we are all in different places on the journey of where we're going to be. So please, if you have questions, is there something that spoke to you here? Please comment that, ask it, DM me, whatever I can do to support you. And be sure to sign up for the ROI Accelerator Challenge.com, because this is going to be the best of the best. And if you were at my last one, my Mastering Potential one that I did back in January, it was life-changing for a lot of people. So get over to ROIAcceleratorChallenge.com, and I will see you in there. And until then, my friend, have a great, great night. Have a great weekend. If I don't talk to you or see you before then, know I appreciate you, each and every one of you. It means the world to me. And thank you so much for showing up and spending your valuable time with me. It means a lot. And we'll see you next time. Be blessed. Much love. And as always, live like your life depends on it, because it does. Be blessed, my friend.